Welcome back to Did You Know? Today we're diving into the enchanting world of fairy tales. We'll explore their structure, iconic characters, timeless stories, and the fascinating lives of their writers. Plus, we'll touch on some surprising details about their hallucinogenic origins and the educational messages they impart. Let's embark on this magical journey together. First, let's talk about the structure of fairy tales. Did you know that most fairy tales follow a common pattern? This structure often includes a protagonist, a journey or quest, a series of challenges or trials, and a resolution with a moral lesson. For example, in Cinderella, we have a humble protagonist, Cinderella, who faces trials imposed by her wicked stepmother and stepsisters. With the help of a fairy godmother, she overcomes these challenges and ultimately finds happiness, teaching us about the virtues of kindness and perseverance. Now let's meet some iconic characters. From brave heroes and heroines to cunning villains and magical beings, fairy tale characters are larger than life. Characters like Snow White, who embodies purity and innocence, and the cunning wicked witch, who represents evil and envy, are unforgettable. These characters often symbolize universal human traits and emotions, making the stories relatable across cultures and generations. Next, let's delve into the timeless stories themselves. Fairy tales often originate from oral traditions, passed down through generations before being written down. Stories like Hansel and Gretel, Rapunzel, and Jack and the Beanstalk have been told and retold, evolving with each telling. These tales not only entertain, but also reflect the cultural values and societal norms of the times in which they were created. Let's not forget the brilliant minds behind these magical stories. Writers like the brothers Grimm, Hans Christian Andersen, and Charles Perrault have made significant contributions to the fairy tale genre. Stories as popular as Puss in Boots, Little Red Riding Hood, Sleeping Beauty, or Cinderella were originally much darker than we know them today. Charles Perrault adapted them and put into writing the form in which we know them today. Now pay attention to what follows, because if you are a very sensitive person, you should better not hear this. Yes, it is true that the popular tales we remember from our childhood did not always have a happy ending. In a medieval version of Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf not only eats the girl's grandmother, but when she arrives at the house, serves her a plate of the poor lady's meat for dinner, and immediately after the wolf eats Red Riding Hood, a fact that also happens in the Grimm brothers' version of Red Riding Hood. Thanks God they put those parts out of the story. Puss in Boots, despite the tricks he may play in the canonical version, was much more ungrateful in the original story and used every opportunity to take advantage of people. And now the bomb. The prince in Sleeping Beauty did not just kiss her but made love and left her pregnant while she slept, and she gave birth to 2 children. And when the prince's wife, which was the queen, discovered it, she ordered that the children... Oh, but no. No, we won't mention this because it includes horrible facts and even cannibalism, and this is not all. Other stories as Bluebeard the Fairies or the Little Glass Slipper, Riquet with the Tuft, and Hopper My Thumb are not the same as the original stories. Charles Perrault was the first to give them a canonical form, and also softened many details that were originally quite macabre. This was because the purpose of popular tales was to give a moral lesson or warn about a danger, for example, trusting strangers as Little Red Riding Hood does, but they often did so in an extreme and certainly not child-friendly manner. The brothers Grimm collected and published many German folk tales, adding their own darker twists. Hans Christian Andersen created original tales like The Little Mermaid and The Ugly Duckling, while Charles Perrault gave us classics like Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty. Their stories continue to inspire and captivate audiences worldwide. Did you know that some fairy tales have roots in hallucinogenic experiences? Certain stories and characters were influenced by substances that alter perception, reflecting the mystical and surreal elements of the tales. For instance, in Alice in Wonderland, the surreal adventures Alice experiences can be seen as metaphors for hallucinogenic journeys. The hookah-smoking caterpillar and the changing sizes Alice undergoes are just a few examples of this influence. Fairy tales are more than just fantastical stories. They often carry important educational messages. They teach us about the values of courage, honesty, kindness, and the importance of making good choices. For example, The Boy Who Cried Wolf teaches us about the consequences of lying, while Beauty and the Beast reminds us that true beauty comes from within. These lessons are timeless and continue to resonate with audiences of all ages. But what about a young girl living with 7 little miners? Snow White's story, where she finds refuge with the 7 dwarves, is indeed peculiar. And how about the tale of Hansel and Gretel, where 2 children are abandoned in a forest and end up at a house made of candy, owned by a witch? Or the story of Little Red Riding Hood, where a girl encounters a talking wolf disguised as her grandmother. These bizarre scenarios highlight the creativity and imagination that make fairy tales so captivating. Despite their oddities, these stories often convey deep moral lessons about bravery, resourcefulness, and the triumph of good over evil. And there you have it, the magical world of fairy tales, filled with enchanting stories, memorable characters, and valuable life lessons. Whether you're reading them for the first time or rediscovering them, these tales have a special place in our hearts. Thanks for joining us on this journey through fairy tales. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more fascinating insights into the world around us. And feel free to leave a comment with your favorite fairy tale. Before we go, here's a little joke for you. Why did Cinderella get kicked off the soccer team? Because she kept running away from the ball. See you next time on Did You Know?